Ni hao.
My name is Saif Muhammad.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Ihsan Marzouk.
My name is Abdullah Al-Hashmi.
Good day. Today we are presenting about China, and our group is consist of Saif Muhammad.
Ihsan.
The dialogue that we are embarking on is focused on China. National differences in political economy, differences in culture, government intervention in markets, regional economic integration, and finally we will be concluding our decision. Political system in China is socialist. Communism, therefore, there is no room for flexibility, but give roots that teaches economists how to function in the community. For instance, Guangxi. China is a major economical powerhouse in the world, and China's economy is one of the world's most stable economy. But unfortunately, the economy came down 5% last year. China is a socialist market economy which is divided into state-owned sector and open market economy. The co- corrup- the corruption is prevalent, but the government imposes strict fines and investigation in a case of corruption.
China has 1 billion population and is considered to be a socialist republic run by a single communist party. The government has parliament system with both president and prime minister. Communist part of China was founded in the year 1921 by Chen Duxiu and Li Dazhao. Full stop. China has a socialist market economy. China's economy is subject to market forces like all other countries in the world. Second largest economy in the world with GDP of USD 9.2 trillion. Its manufacturing hub where the secondary sector compromises industry and construction. China weathered the global economy crisis better than most countries, and finally the legal system is judicial. Branches of China consist of People Court, the Supreme People Court, the People's Proctorate, the Supreme People's Proctorate, Military Proctorates, and other People's Proctorates. The rich are very educated, while the middle class are also educated, with high competition among themselves. Which leaves the lower class, which tends to be farmers, and they also tend to be illiterate.
Comparing China and Dubai, China's main language in mainland China is Mandarin, and Chinese education system focused Mandarin as their main language, which they use in their schooling and universities, and only recently started bringing English language to their education. So people in the middle age, they cannot speak or write in English, but the ones currently graduating, they've currently learned how to speak English and involved English in their education. Meanwhile, in UAE, English is considered to be the main language because in UAE, it's an international culture, and we have people internationally from every country in the world. So English is their main language, but in the same time, Arabic language is offered and is mandatory in schooling and in most universities, especially for locals to be able to speak their own language, speak and read their own language, which is very important, especially if you work in public places. Comparing the education, like schooling and universities in China, Chinese government does not pay and provide free schooling for Chinese students because China is a very big country and China cannot afford to do that. Meanwhile, in Dubai and UAE, the government sponsors and pays the schooling fees as well as the universities if the people choose. The way people in China greet each other is ni hao by the saying, and it means, by translation, it means you good. And in business terms, they tend to greet each other with a handshake, which presents a truly and trusted business partnership. In UAE, they greet each other as Salam Alaikum and by shaking hands. Ladies to ladies kiss each other's cheek. Meanwhile, men to men brushes the tip of noses with each other. But men and women in UAE does not shake hands because it is forbidden in some laws. So in case a person from UAE wants to trade someone in China, he has to be aware of the culture where to not shake hands with a woman because it's not their culture, so they have to be aware of that. In China, they use titles for every profession. So in case you're an engineer, you have a title. If you're a teacher, you have a title. But in Dubai, everyone almost has the same title except doctor. Doctors have different title. Chinese are mostly informal unless in professional business. In professional, they're very formal and very strict with the rules. But like informality is very known in China, and when in businesses, when the companies have made business with each other for a long period of time, they tend to be informal again. It is a sign of being kind to them and treating them like their friends, which means they have earned their trust. Looking at Chinese people, they are very punctual in business. They have to be in time and very strict with the money policies. If they say the money has to be paid in the second, it has to be paid in the second or before the second. Meanwhile, in Dubai, if it's second, they can extend it a week later because it's a part of the culture. Time management doesn't matter as much as Chinese. So people doing business with each other have to be aware of that. Gifting in China is very important, especially if you want to do business with each other. Gifting someone means you have to earn someone's trust. And as I was saying, gifting in China is very important because it means making a relationship with them outside business, which also indicates to having trust and bonds with each other and having a better future. Something we have to be aware of in China is, especially for us coming in UAE, is in UAE looking at someone's eyes means earning someone's trust. But in China, people are very shy and it is very rude to look at each other and stare at each other unless you're in love with someone. So lovers look at each other's eye, but like otherwise you don't look at each other's eye unless they want to fight with someone. So thank you so much.
Tariffs is the unweighted average of effectively applied rates of all products. Data are classified using the harmonized system of trade at the 6 or 8 digit level. Tariff line data were matched to the standard International Trade Classification (SITC). Effectively applied tariff rates product level are average for products in each commodity group. When the effectively applied rate is unavailable, the most favored nation rate is used instead. Subsidies is the sum of money granted by the state or public body to help an industry or business keep the price of the commodity or service low. The Chinese government on Friday announced tax breaks and other measures aimed to creating jobs and promoting entrepreneurship as the country seeks to boost economic growth, which slowed to 7% in the first quarter of 2015. It's the slowest rate in 6 years. The main subsidies that China uses is the industrial subsidy. The industrial subsidy consists of low-cost loans, subsidies to energy, and to key inputs, land and technology. 4 sequential studies identify the growth of subsidies to Chinese manufacturing over time and effects on world industry. Steel from 2000 till 2007, glass from 2004 till 2008, and paper from 2002 to 2009, and also the auto parts from 2001 to 2011. Import quotas. Import quotas is a limit on the quantity of a good that can be produced abroad and sold domestically. It is a type of a protectionist trade restriction that sets a physical limit on the quantity of a good that can be imported into a country in a given period of time. For example, China is the world's top consumer of cotton, will slash its import quotas for 2015 to boost a demand for domestic fiber. So, they will put import quotas on cotton to increase the demand of another object, driving future prices in both China and the United States lower. The regional economic integration is the economic cooperation that removes barriers of trade between certain countries, for example, European and the GCC countries among themselves. There are 5 levels of economic integration, which are free trade, custom union, common market, economic union, and political union. Firstly, free trades are basically tariffs that are reduced or removed between member of countries. The second one, custom union, sets common external tariffs among member countries, which means that the same tariffs are applied to third countries. Thirdly, common market. Service and capital are free to move within member countries, expanding scale economies and comparative advantages. However, each nation market has its own regulation, such as product standard. Economic union are all tariffs are removed for trade between member countries, creating an uniform single market. And the last one is the political union, represents the potentially most advanced form of integration with a common government only found within a nation states, such as federations where there is a central government and regions having a level of autonomy.
Talk about the conclusion now. I'm going to do the conclusion, and the conclusion I'm going to touch on overall judgment of how we feel about the China, or doing business in China, and general recommendations. Our overall judgment, China is a great country to do business with, but it's complicated. So one will have to know how does China as a country as a whole works. So how does one will know about China? One will know about China first of all is to study its history. Once you learn its history, you'll go into this politics. And politics, it has a big effect on its economy and also on its culture and also on its legal system. So by knowing the political system of China, you will know the other things. So you know the other factors. So let's say we want to do business in China, right? And as my colleague Said mentioned about the culture, for example, it's like the social and the behaviors that in China people, if you know those behaviors, it will help you a lot while conducting your business in China. For instance, in the class we touched about the Guanxi, how does that, which is basically Chinese equivalent of Emirates Wasta, which is knowing the right people to get through the red line. Our closing thoughts as a group is for if a business wants to play in the global field, they will have to take China as a consideration. They have to do business with the Chinese government and Chinese country to become a powerhouse. Thank you.
Neha, Miss Paul, we're begging you for Guanxi. Put for us a